Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Carolina Hurricanes are now one win away from their first Stanley Cup in 20 years. Also, who deserves the most blame for the Spurs' historic collapse in Game 4? And just because the Chiefs paid Patrick Mahomes doesn't mean they're getting any better anytime soon. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From the opening whistle of the World Cup to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
After evening the series in a hard-fought Game 4 win, the Carolina Hurricanes had a chance in Game 5 to put a exclamation point on a stellar season with a chance to win their first Stanley Cup in 20 years. Andrei Svechnikov scores a pair of goals, and the Canes get a 4-2 win in Game 5. They are now one game away from that elusive second title in franchise history. Gil Martin from Locked On NHL joins me now. And Gil, we felt this series turn a little bit in Game 4 when we chatted after that game. And this had been a series that had been pretty hard fought throughout, really until Game 5, where I felt like the Canes really took care of this game from start to finish. What was the biggest difference for you?
You know, I think the Canes got off to, after they gave up the first goal, they responded. Again, Jordan Staal stepping up, the captain. He has been so good in this Cup final, his goal streak continuing. And then their best players were their best players. You mentioned Svechnikov scoring twice, Nikolai Ehlers with 3 assists in this game. When your top players step up and play their best, you have a better chance of winning.
Through 2 games, this looked like the Golden Knights series, and certainly through 3 games when they had a 2-1 lead. I joked in our last talk that people were already handing out the Conn Smythe Trophy, and now the Canes find themselves 1 win away. What has happened to the Golden Knights here in the last 2 games?
I think the thing is that these 2 teams are so evenly matched. I mean, you look at this game, what was the difference? A little bit more effective. The Canes on the power play was one thing. The Canes were better in the face-off circle. But, it's one of those things where, yes, Vegas was up 2-0, but were they dominating? No. So I guess things evened out, and now the momentum is clearly with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and a lot of times in these games, especially in a game that was, at least for moments of this, felt a little one-sided, you look at shots on goal, and usually one team will have like a 10-shot disparity. These 2 teams separated by just 1 shot attempt in this game, and sometimes it is just as simple as you get either better opportunities, or we know in hockey, like the whole deal is sometimes it's just a ricochet off a skate, it's a ricochet off a stick, and all of a sudden you've got a 2-goal lead when the run of play was more or less even.
Yeah, and one thing I give Carolina a lot of credit for, they did a good job of keeping Vegas to the perimeter. So, yeah, Vegas got nearly as many shot attempts as Carolina, but a lot of them were easily handled by the goalie, or they're one and done. There's no rebound. There's no second chance opportunity. And I think it's not just quantity, but quality that made a difference here. And Carolina had the better quality shots and opportunities.
As we look forward here to a Game 6 with the Canes having their chance, you also have a Golden Knights team with plenty of pedigree. Their backs are against the wall. So just like you said, momentum clearly on the Hurricane side. But I think narratively, if you wanted to be a glass half full Knights fan, you'd go, well, look, this team, they respond to adversity. We've seen that over and over. And to get to this position, you have to be able to do that. So in Game 6, it's like, whose will out, right? Is it the desperation, or is it the we can taste it feeling from the Hurricanes?
Yeah, and I think Vegas has a big advantage that they will be back home. I think Carolina was in a must-win situation. They couldn't afford to go back to Vegas down 3-2. Now,
although we just saw them win in Vegas.
Yeah. But now Vegas gets to go back home, and maybe the crowd will energize them a little bit. They'll get the last change, which is important. And look, this is a veteran team. Vegas has been there, done that. They've already won a cup. They've been to a final another time. John Tortorella has seen all there is to see as a coach. So,
good and bad, right?
Yeah, don't be surprised. And here's my prediction. The first 5 minutes of Game 6, Vegas is they're going to pour it on. They are going to put all kinds of pressure on the Carolina goal and try to get that first goal and just ride that momentum.
Stay up to date all year on the NHL by subscribing to Locked On NHL on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports today. Coming up, who should the Spurs blame for their Game 4 collapse? Before we get to that, Mexico scored a World Cup opening day win. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. We've all seen those matches where it's scoreless for what feels like forever, and then one goal completely flips the game, opens the floodgates, and it's a 5-4 final. Suddenly, everyone's pressing, the crowd comes alive, and the final 20 minutes become must-watch TV. And now you get the benefit from each goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. Mexico finally got the World Cup opening day monkey off its back. After 7 previous tournament openers without a win, the co-hosts beat South Africa 2-0. It wasn't exactly tidy. 3 red cards, 2 for South Africa and 1 late for Mexico, but nobody in Mexico is going to complain too much about style points today. 8th time was the charm, and the host nation is off and running. Over on the diamond, Juan Soto lifted the Mets past the Cardinals.
Last year, the New York Mets fell apart when their starting pitching did. Now, here we are in 2026, and this same exact problem is rearing its ugly head. This is Ryan Finkelstein, the host of Locked On Mets, and it's so ridiculous that this team finds themselves at the exact same place where we left them at the end of 2025. David Peterson has turned into an unmitigated disaster. Sean Manaea can't be trusted. There's not enough confidence there to even give him the ball as a starting pitcher. And Kodai Senga's in the minor leagues trying to find something. It's just crazy how this rotation ended up going full circle to the exact same spot, and it doesn't seem like there's any answers for them to fix it anytime soon.
The Tigers mashed 6 homers in a shutout rout of the Twins.
So much good in today's game, where it just feels like this is the brand of baseball we expected to see from the Tigers on a much more consistent basis. So the fact that it's in there, we know it's in there. They're playing better baseball. The month of June has been exceptionally better with 3 straight series wins. And AJ alluded to it in the post-game press conference that you're slowly, it's not going to happen overnight, slowly, but surely start climbing out of that hole so that this team can remain relevant in the race and eat the elephant one bite at a time. I'm going to have to come up with some different cliches, because hopefully this continues to be the conversation of how close are the Tigers to getting back into position in terms of qualifying for, I'll just put it this way, qualifying for relevancy to be in that discussion of teams that have a chance when we get to that all-important trade deadline and benchmarking the season in the increments that we're in. Because from now until July, it's all predicated upon how this team can continue to stack series. And look, we all know it's coming. Tarek Skubal starting in Cleveland, hopefully Casey Mize as well. And you look at this team getting back to full strength, or certainly significantly closer, and there's a lot to be excited about.
Spurs fans probably have their fingers pointed in 1,000 directions following San Antonio's epic 29-point collapse in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. So who really deserves the most blame? Locked On Spurs squad show host Casey Vieira and Devin Brown discuss.
And so, my biggest thing is, let's start at the top, with Coach Mitch. He's done a great job all season, bringing this team from, one end to the other, respectable. The Spurs are back being respected in the NBA and things like that. And things that have worked for you all season, letting the guys play. You play your game, you play your game. But in the finals, Casey, Matt, I feel like if you have to rein these guys in a little bit, you know, let them go to a certain extent, but at the same time, be smart about what it is that you're doing, then you need to do that. Coach Mitch has not answered the call on that in 4 games. They're able to pull off one, but 3 games have not gone their way because they continue to play through all these different situations, all these different scenarios, and it's just weird basketball right now that the San Antonio base is not used to. Then you go to De'Aaron Fox and the chance to, you know, he's been up and down all year. You get into the finals, it's a chance moving into, you know, the new contract kicking in, you know, letting the San Antonio base know that we have, you know, the De'Aaron Fox that's earned all this money, and it's been disappointing out of him. And, you know, the turnovers, the missed shots, whatever that was at the end of the game, and all this stuff has been disappointing out of him. Wemby, you know, when you rewatch that game and some of the things that Alvarado was doing against him, there's no way a guy 5'6" or 5'7" should be able to do that against Wemby. All right. Castle's been up and down. He did not step out of bounds after you review that play. You know, we got to get him back to playing solid for Game 5. We'll talk about that later. And right there, just, you know, the bench, Keldon, I mean, you can go on and on about this. The main point is this before I turn it over to Matt, is the guys need to step up through this dark cloud and the dark stuff that they have going on right now and show the base, show themselves that they can answer in Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess it's customary to play blame game after a critical playoff. In a critical playoff loss, especially one that is a record-setting loss. But, I mean, Devin kind of went down the list, right? And I think that you could really continue to go down the list if you really wanted to. Like, everyone, when you blow a 29-point lead, like, there's some semblance of blame to pass around to everybody. And I mean, it could come in all different shapes and forms, obviously. And like, some players are going to have more impact on the game. Your highest usage players, your most important players. So that's obviously where you're going to start. I was talking to you guys prior to our show and thinking to myself, like, look, okay, we've disagreed on De'Aaron Fox performances throughout the course of the season. I've been much more a proponent of what he's brought to the team from like a floor game, even when he's not shooting well, yada, yada, yada. Last night, down the stretch of the third quarter, 3 turnovers. I understand after the game he's talking to media and saying he thought he could outrun OG Anunoby on that final possession, or I should say second to last possession for the Spurs. And like, I get, you know, maybe a guy who's used his speed his whole life can think that way. I kind of get that, but cost-benefit analysis says right there, you got to take the ball out. So, like, I'm just looking at the decision-making down the stretch from De'Aaron, and it was just really uncharacteristic. Like, if there's been one constant from him this year, it's that the decision-making has been pretty good. The floor game has been good. He keeps the offense organized. And there were just too many moments last night where it looked like the Spurs didn't have an answer or like knew exactly what they were supposed to be running in certain situations beyond like the initial action. And I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with Mitch Johnson as well, right? Like, when there is this ongoing sense of seeming disorganization on the floor, like, someone's got to be able to communicate with one another what they're looking for on a play-by-play basis. And like, every timeout that was taken in the second half didn't really seem to bear fruit. Like, it's like nothing really was reset out of any of the timeouts that they took. And so I think just in general, you got to look at your top guys. And like, by the way, you also got to look at Victor Wembanyama, who like seemed to run out of gas. That's another point of emphasis I'd like to get to. Like, he played 44 minutes, and I think at some point in the second half, you needed to buy him like 2 minutes. I don't care if the Knicks are coming back, because like at a certain point, early, midway to early fourth quarter, like you could tell what was happening. You could tell it was coming, and you just needed to get that guy a breather. Greg Popovich was really good about finding Tim Duncan those 2 minutes, right, Devin? Like when he needed them in certain spots, even if it felt risky in the moment. So it's just sort of, I mean, to me, it was a group effort. But even with Wembanyama, like forget even the 2 missed free throws. All the energy and force downhill that he was playing with in the first half, especially out of the roll, he kind of disappeared in that capacity. And like the Knicks defense was able to pressure out high, and San Antonio wasn't making them pay. So, and a lot of that can be sort of mitigated if Victor's rolling hard to the rim. So whether it was dribble penetration, whether it was rolling hard, all that stuff, like they just stopped getting paint touches. They scored 4 points in the paint in the whole second half. 4. Like that's crazy. 24 points in the paint in the first half, 4 in the second. Like we see what the problem was. So like the question is, as a group, like how do we get there? How do we get back to that? And they just didn't solve for that last night.
Stay up to date all year on the San Antonio Spurs by subscribing to Locked On Spurs on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Chiefs paid Patrick Mahomes. Cool, good for him. So what? The Kansas City Chiefs got a massive new deal done with Patrick Mahomes this week, but new money doesn't mean new wins, and things are looking like the Chiefs' current iteration will never win a title again. Locked On NFL host Tyler Rowan and Nick Cattles explain why they think that's the case.
I'm glad that Patrick Mahomes got paid. He deserved the money. That's great. But I got to tell you, I got a lot of skepticism here. I just don't believe that this current version of the Chiefs is going to win another championship, whether Mahomes is paid, his contract numbers, anything. I just don't think that they're going to be able to do it with what they have right now.
I wouldn't bet against him. Now, I also wouldn't say that it's likely, but I would not bet against him because, look, ACLs are not nearly as significant as they once were as an injury. He turns 31 in September, Tyler, so he's still young. I mean, he should have 5 to 6 really good years left, but that doesn't mean there aren't questions. I do have lots of questions that you can dive into, but I would not bet against him because of how good he's been and how young he still is.
Nick, they don't call me the madman for nothing. I'm going to bet again. Listen, I just don't think – I think that Mahomes has a chance to win another championship again later in his career, but I don't think that it's going to come with like Andy Reid at coach, for example. Obviously, Travis Kelce in his last season, not going to have Kelce around. I just feel like the version of the Chiefs that we've seen since Mahomes burst onto the scene in 2018, 2019, that version of the Chiefs, if Mahomes wins another title, it's going to be with a different coach and with a totally different core. That's really what I'm thinking about when I saw this money. I'm like, that's great. But to me, I just don't see this version of the Chiefs that we've come to know being a title contender again until they remake things.
So maybe it'd make more sense if I said I believe in Mahomes more than I believe in the program, which is tough to do because the program has to be good, right? Yeah. One of the biggest questions to me, Tyler, something that sometimes gets overlooked with the whole Tom Brady story and how he was able to sustain his greatness is that he was always motivated by something. And when the Patriots brought in Jimmy Garoppolo, that was a hair across his tuk-tuk. And so he kind of got reinvigorated because of that move, because of that draft pick. And the question for me is, will Patrick Mahomes find that? Because I don't think he's the same Patrick Mahomes he was a few years ago. So Can he rededicate himself? Can he find another way outside of his natural talents, which will start to fade, to still be a very good, if not great, quarterback? That is a big question. You mentioned the Andy Reid thing. The other question I would say is, will Kansas City do enough around him? Are they truly going to appreciate that he's not the same guy as he ages and give him more to work with? Because that was inevitably what fell apart in New England with Brady.
And that's really where my skepticism comes in. Again, I think Mahomes is excellent. I don't think that he's going to be fundamentally changed from the ACL, but I look at the Kansas City Chiefs roster right now. You know, we heard the report before the draft. Andy Reid is dead set on fixing the offensive line, but they didn't do anything. on the offensive line of any consequence in the draft. And not only that, but their backup swing tackle this year, Wanya Morris, is now asking for a trade. And it sounds like they're going to be looking to move on as a mutual partnership and find him a new home. Josh Simmons looks great. He's dropped weight. He looks in great shape. And after the weird end to his season last year, he was good when he was on the field, but there was weird all-field circumstances that we'll probably never get the true information on. The secondary, they bring back L'Jarius Sneed. It's a homecoming. It's a reunion. But still, you know, you got Mansour Delane in there now. You got a lot of young guys like Noel Williams that need to step up. You bring in Alohi Gilman, who's a good player, but can he be your top safety? I don't know. I just look at their roster, even their pass rush. I didn't even get to the pass rush. You know, I look at their roster and I just have a lot of questions of, is the O-line good enough? Is the secondary good enough? Is the pass rush good enough? And then the weapons, they haven't been consistent. Worthy's not healthy. Rice is still in jail. As we speak right now, Rashee Rice is in jail. You know, it's like they have talent, and I can definitely see a way where the season breaks a certain way and the Chiefs have that revenge tour and get back to a Super Bowl. But I just have a lot of questions, and it's hard to build this thing over and over. Howie Roseman is praised because he was able to turn it around so quick from Super Bowl to Super Bowl. Look at the Seahawks. Everybody's all over John Schneider right now. It took him like 10 years, 11 years to build another championship team. It's just hard. So it's not really my faith in Mahomes, but looking around at the roster, it just doesn't look good enough on paper. They're going to need some magic for it to really be what they want it to be, in my opinion.
And finally, Victor Wembanyama's rough night in New York apparently did not end at the final buzzer. After the Spurs blew a 29-point lead in Game 4, Wembanyama got back to his hotel and was met by jeering Knicks fans and at least one flying egg. The egg appeared to crack off a nearby street sign, not Wemby, but still, that's a pretty on-brand New York ending to the greatest comeback in finals history. Wembanyama has now learned a valuable lesson. In New York, even the post-game walk to the hotel can come with a scouting report. Coming up, can San Antonio keep this thing afloat through the weekend, or will the Knicks become NBA champions for the first time since 1973? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.